This is legitimately embarrassing. As Martin St. Louis is living with this team, you have to imagine after one of the worst defensive performances I have ever seen watching this team, not just this year, but last year too. It was not all negative. There were some positives. Yoel Armia getting a goal. But Jesse, we got to discuss what was one of the worst, if not the worst period of Montreal Canadiens hockey I have ever seen. And there's a lot of stuff that we got to dive into coming up in this episode of Habs Digest. And let's just get right into this. Bring up the box score. Feel free to pause and have a look. Jesse, I don't know if I've ever seen a worse period of hockey from Montreal. Not this year. I mean, just for reference, this is the third time this year they've given up at least 7 goals. This doesn't count tonight. All of last year, they only did it 4 times. This is the second time they've given up at least 8 this year. They only did that once last year. Marc-Antoine Gaudin said 8 times through 29 games we've given up at least 6. That only happened 3 times through 29 games last year. This is my reaction watching that third period. What can we even say at this point? This is the last game of a homestand before you play 8 out of 10 on the road. You go into the holiday season, and this is what you do? Like, I'm not really for tearing every player to the ground, but, like, no one looked locked in at all tonight.
They're trying to force our hand to bring back Ron Burgundy tonight. Like, we'll do it if we have to, because things escalated quickly into that third period, Josh. Like, I'm kind of at a loss for words because there's a good hockey game, like kind of a good half of a hockey game here. Yes. You know, that first period, like the Pens are giving us that game in that second period. The game's tied. They're giving us 3 power plays, you know, but we scored that first goal, and I thought we just got a little bit too casual with the puck. I think, Josh, do you remember when like Nick Suzuki was one of the power plays and just kind of we're having some problems, some zone entries there. For sure, it's a power play at the beginning of the period. You're maybe missing a little bit of momentum, but like this, a little bit of a soft kind of backhand pass there. And really, we just kind of lost that momentum where that was our opportunity to really seize that game in the second period with all those power plays. How? By making those simpler plays, Josh, which I think was kind of at the root of the problem tonight. Like first not getting pucks in deep, then trying to do like those more riskier cross-ice passes, but for sure it was in the defensive end. You know, we see getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. You know, obviously Matheson had a couple of turnovers
this guy
there as well, missing some zone coverage, spent about half the game just spread eagle on the ice. It just wasn't Matheson's night tonight.
That's one way to put it. This dude. And not to mention, though, here's my gripe with this. Mike Matheson went back on the power play. He went back on the first power play after having one of the worst games all season for him. You take lane. I know. To fix the mic. I know the Montreal Canadiens power play was not great tonight. It didn't look great. They had one good one when they had an offensive zone faceoff and they went into the power play. It looked reasonable. They got good opportunities. It is what it is. Line A friggin' sniped one off of Jari's helmet. I'm surprised he didn't get a concussion from it. But you put Matheson back out on the first power play after causing one of the goals himself by turning it over at the blue line, then getting walked by Brian Rust. He goes out in the third when you need a goal. It's 4-2, and he's the one out there? Like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to hate too much on Mike Matheson. I know a lot of you guys will. I'm not one to, like, tear players to the ground, call them names, anything like that. But this is just a questionable coaching decision, honestly. Like, again, I don't like calling out Marty St. Louis, but, like, there's some weird stuff going on in this game. I don't know what's going on with Mike Matheson. He did switch up the lines, though, Jesse, and I wanted to bring that up, too. We saw Juraj Slafkovsky back on the top line. The Habs started to get desperate. They said, let's go back to that line that worked last season. It's been a long time coming. This line makes sense together. Slav was not really making an impact with that line A and Dach line. Now you give Dach another guy who can take faceoffs, and Alex Newhook, who has improved since he's been on that first line. You add size back to the first line. You add speed to the second line. This is something that's a long time coming, but it was too little too late. Honestly, though, it's after he made those switches that the team fell apart. Not their fault, but still, like, you can tell that there's something right now. Like, if you're Kent Hughes and you're watching this game, what are you even saying to yourself?
It's definitely a mental thing where you're allowing so many goals in such a short span of time. But it's just too bad that often your vets are kind of being the one that are creating these turnovers. But for sure, it's those self-inflicted wounds, like once again, right? Like we're coming into that third period. We're looking to kind of, you know, break that tie. It's a tie game going into that third period, right? But then taking that early penalty there in a period where you know this is going to decide the game, obviously by just getting into bad habits, taking a couple quick penalties there early in the third, obviously but how the wheels came off so quickly. Like we know Monty didn't have a great game tonight, but at least he stopped a couple before kind of letting a bunch in. I don't know if we can say as much on Primeau. Again, we don't like being too hard on our players. Like it's a very small margin of error right now, but you have to feel like if you're Cayden Primeau, you're a little bit concerned about your situation in Montreal. It's starting to creep into your mind just a little bit.
I mean, more than a little bit. I mean, this dude had an .844 save percentage coming into this game. And in relief, now his defense wasn't doing him any favors, but I mean, if we just watch these back, now these first 2 goals are on Monty. That's the worst defensive. Let me just play that one again. This is the worst defensive coverage I've ever seen. Like, I don't even know how you let that happen.
That's line A.
It is line A, and Hudson also lost his man. That one's whatever's a scramble. But this here, I don't know what Primeau's doing. The 0 rebound control. He has no urgency to get back in the play, and he's stumbling backwards like he just had friggin' 3 shots of fireball down on George Street. I don't know what's going on. Like, it happened with the next goal as well. He just gets it, it bounces off him, and he's stumbling down through the crease as the puck's just loose again, and Brian Rust puts it home. Brian Rust had a hat trick this game. I don't even know, right? Like, you got to think at some point, like, some kind of message has to be sent. And I don't know if that involves a trade or if that involves waiving someone, because I can't look at the forward core and point to 1 or 2 players in particular who were, like, really, really bad tonight. For example, Josh Anderson was a -3. I thought he had a great game. He had 2 penalties and was a -3, but I thought he played a strong game. He created a lot of opportunities for himself. Caufield got an assist. Armia scored a goal. Suzuki continues his point streak with another goal. All good games. Like, yes, Slaf wasn't as impactful. Laine did have his worst game of the season so far, but you expect that. It's the D core that just looked horrible. Barron, Guhle, even Hudson losing their coverage, even though Hudson was amazing offensively. Matheson making error after error. Jack, I felt like the only guy on this team tonight, Jesse, that played with a super high level of heart. He was playing angry. He wanted this. So, like, they were letting their goalies out to dry, but, like, the one guy that clearly stands out, like, if you want to send a message, you waive Primeau, you call up one of the Laval boys. Does it actually fix anything? I don't think it necessarily needs to fix anything. I don't think it can get worse than Primeau, but I think at some point, at least in my mind, you got to send a message saying, all right, you know what, this team's not cutting it. You're gone. Someone's got to go. And right now, unfortunately, he seems to be the leading candidate to me.
For me, I got a longer leash for the younger guys. It's really a player like Matheson, where it's like we see Russ beating him to the net. Those soft kind of zone exits were not only on target, but kind of some backhand. We're seeing just multiple times of just kind of the same things that he's kind of doing there that is really leading to goals against. And again, on a very young team, I kind of understand a lot of those goals in bunches, but it's kind of your vets that are there to kind of stabilize this when it's happening. That's the issue, right? Because we got that all-important first goal tonight, which was so big, we know, for the Montreal Canadiens in terms of their probability of winning the game. We know for sure that call against that got the Penguins, that power play goal to tie it up. That was soft, but there's no excuses for what happens after that, right? Like, the wheels just completely came off there in the third, and it's going to be up for Martin St. Louis to really, what does he need to do? What does this team need to do from stopping just, to completely kind of derail and have all the dominoes kind of fall all at once there?
I mean, like, they just don't seem locked in. I mean, is that crazy to say? Like, that's been a thing all season long where they haven't been able to play a good 60 minutes of hockey. Most nights is like a good 40 to 50 minutes with like bad stretches. Tonight was just another example of that. Like, at what point, I don't know. Like, I'm not ready to turn on Marty. Absolutely not. I think a lot of people are ready. Like, Habs just had a wonderful 3 wins in 4 games, and I'm already seeing people come out and say, Marty St. Louis is the worst coach ever, fire him. Reactionary fans, go do what you want to do. I don't care. I'm not going to listen to you. But at some point, Jesse, getting your players locked in for a game does fall a bit on the coach, and I think that's a fair thing. Do you think it's fair to say that this team just doesn't seem locked in? The amount of blown defensive coverage at this point, I don't think just comes down to skill. I think it comes down to focus. I mean, a good percentage of your defense is just straight up your effort.
Yeah, there definitely is that. At the same time, there was some simple plays. Like, Laine is going to look back on that and know he should have been better. Hudson kind of continued a little bit of a streak we see where our defenders are leaving the zone a little bit too quick and allowing defenders behind them. We've seen that getting burned, but again, it's those vets that I want to see really holding it down. I've seen some positive signs, like from Martin St. Louis, of being able to really, kind of work with players like Slaf that really need that help to kind of identify things that this team really needs to work on. I think there's been a lot of positive things over the streak, but the last thing you want to do is just kind of sabotage yourself in this game here today. And that's why we're kind of at a loss for words, but it just comes down to the defensive zone. If we're making simpler plays, we're getting the puck in deep, and we're making sure that we're making strong plays to get the puck out of our zone. If not, we're keeping the puck on our stick. I think that's all the difference. So playing that simpler games and also having your vets being accountable. And if not at a certain point, like, to be honest, like, I do see a future where Matheson, as soon as this summer, is maybe finding a new home, because for sure he creates that offense, but it's just, he's definitely costing us goals against quite regularly.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I can't disagree. And he was still the leading defenseman in terms of time on ice tonight. Sorry, no, he was. Yes, he was. 23 minutes, and then it was Guhle, then it was Hudson. I'm just confused with the being rewarded the power play time. Like, look, I think if you have a bad game, stop playing the guy. Like I get that he creates a lot of offense for the team, but like it feels like there is like you've said before, Jesse, you don't want to see these playing favorites, and it feels like there is playing favorite towards the veterans. Like I do understand the veterans have more experience, so you have a bit of a longer leash with them in some cases if you're a coach, especially these guys are not that much younger than Marty, like 15 years younger and whatever. But if you have a bad game, I don't understand rewarding the player for that. Like Hudson was the better player tonight, play him more. Matheson had some bad shifts, bench him. I do get the psychology of like, hey, get right back out there, get your mojo back. Not everyone responds the same way to that. Anyway, we actually had other stuff we were going to talk about in this video, Jesse, but we're almost at 12 minutes already going on this, so we might just save it for tomorrow. But we got some good stuff for tomorrow. Don't you worry, because I think we might just have to call it there. That'll do it for this episode of Habs. I just didn't expect this rant to go as long as it did, but if you enjoyed, or if you didn't enjoy, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, because I think a lot of you probably didn't enjoy, maybe not this video, but the game. Share all your thoughts down below. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one with some more interesting commentary. End it.